Okay, we are live. Hi, this is William Ramsey. Welcome to William Ramsey Investigates. On today's show, I have a very special guest. We've done a couple shows together. We've done shows on Knights of Malta recently and Gladio. It's kind of overlaps with our topic tonight. I was also on his show on the No Way Jose podcast talking about Crowley, but I've noticed that he was doing a lot of research into Dutroux, Mark Dutroux, this whole event that happened in Belgium. Some people are familiar with it. Some people know more. There's a lot to know, and the timing is actually incredible because we arranged this earlier this month or maybe late in January. Today is February 27th, 2025, and supposedly the big day of the release of the Jeffrey Epstein files, all these vaunted files. And then they slow roll it, and then they released some binders to a bunch of social influencers. I call them social sphincters because what they released in these binders is ridiculous. Like, I know the Epstein files. Like, I've done tons of shows on Epstein from 2019 when he was arrested, when he was murdered in jail. Like, I've read so many files on Epstein, and what they released is a joke. I mean, it's not even it's laughable. And maybe they're slow rolling it or whatever, but they paraded them out with these guys like it was some kind of big event, like in the White House. Like, come on, who you think we're all suckers? Like, this, why don't you just release it to the public? That's like, you show these fake releases. This is to me is a fake release, a joke release, as opposed to WikiLeaks, who just put the stuff out. Like, okay, these are our files. You guys can go through them. Release the autists, release the journalists, release the independent journalists on these files, and let them go and unredact the whole thing. So this is just kind of another pseudo kind of release. It looks just sketchy, and these guys look worse than in releasing this than actually looking like truth tellers or transparency. They shouldn't even have released it. I mean, it's a total joke. Anyway, Dutroux does have overlaps to Epstein. Epstein is a huge national cultural event. It's not just some limited kind of one-off of a pedophile. This guy was blackmailing everybody he could with Ghislaine Maxwell. These guys are spooks. They're working for probably multiple government agencies. There's clearly FBI boxes in there. So Kash Patel should have access if they haven't just torched everything at the FBI building and put it into paper mill or something like that. But still, that information should be available of what's going on with Epstein, and people need to know, because we're just in the midst of some of the worst corruption we've ever seen in this country. Hundreds of billions of dollars are missing. There's all kinds of pedophile blackmail going on. Strange things happening all around the world. Influencers, too. Some of these influencers who supposedly had the Epstein stuff is very suspect. Dutroux is like that. Mark Dutroux. They always tried to minimize it and make it look like it was just a small guy. This is a massive net. It's actually part of the Belgian society. It's actually worse than that. It's not even a network. There's just a really dark underbelly of Satanism, child abuse, orgying, drugs, and Dutroux was just a part of that. But Jose can talk more about that. So
it's an interesting story, because even the idea that we even call it the Dutroux Fair at all is kind of a misnomer, because Dutroux is such a, I mean, I do think he resides in an interesting spot within the network. He's kind of like the nexus between the like on the ground thugs and then kind of like the actual like hoity-toity network above. But at the end of the day, he is, kind of simply just a henchman. He's a handyman, electrician. He seems to actually fill a similar role amongst this group. And he also kind of has below him this almost like a crew, like a little gang. I forget, there was a name for him too. I can't recall the name of the gang, but you see here Lalaive, on the right there, who is one of those individuals in the gang. He was helping him kidnap and rape children. So it is interesting that it's left as the Dutroux affair, when in reality I think it'd be far more accurate to call it the Nihul affair, or even higher than that, because this is the story that doesn't stop giving. The more you dig into it, the more you are blown away. I mean, this is subject number one for me and Austin's like ongoing, like we're getting ready to go back on Tinfoil Hat again. We've been working on a new theme that we can kind of like talking about, and really it's the same thing we've always kind of come back to on our show, like the idea of how all roads seem to lead back to Gladio, and it's almost like Gladio is this multifaceted op with so many different layers. There's like drug trafficking, sex trafficking, network, like blackmail, like all different, there's satanic elements. And this is kind of the one of the best examples of this. I mean, there are so many different ways. If anything, it's almost overwhelming how many different angles you can take with it. We could easily spend probably 3+ hours just going random little threads. So I mean, I guess I don't know where exactly you want to bring this initially. I mean, I guess we can kind of lay out where the beginnings of this. But I mean, I'll let you lead. You're the host. I mean, we can go so many different ways with the story, but it is interesting to it is, and it's also kind of like it is parallels to today, where the idea that I mean, Dutroux's not a perfect, fill-in for an Epstein, but Epstein's the same thing. Like, he was kind of not the one guy. He clearly, if anything, Ghislaine was probably a bigger fish than him, in my opinion. And then beyond that, you had Robert Maxwell, who's obviously dead, so... But, I mean, you look into that, that's also the gift that keeps giving. This guy was involved in, like, slinging the Promise software, all sorts of different espionage all over the country. I mean, this clearly comes back to Mossad, too, with him. I mean, it doesn't so much the Dutroux affair, so there's no parallels there as far as I'm aware. But and then on we had the picture today with all the influencers. Every single one of them are notable Zionists, which I mean, fine, whatever. But like, geez, Louise, like, I don't know. It kind of reminds me of like me and Austin had a good laugh the other day, where the whistleblower. I don't know if you saw the video of the whistleblower who came out that said before this, kind of prepping us for this. The idea that, the FBI is shredding all these Epstein documents and JFK documents and stuff.
Yes, yeah.
And it was probably one of the most aggressively, I mean, not that there's necessarily wrong with being this, but the most aggressively looking Jewish guy you've ever seen. And it's kind of ironic. And you're like, kind of like, are you kidding me? Seriously? Because it's like, I don't believe you. I don't believe you that this was, oopsies, they're deleting them now. I think someone got $100 million from Miriam Adelson, and the checks paying off right now. I think we're gonna get a wash, and hopefully maybe we can get a white march like happened in Belgium if this keeps going. Because for those who are unaware, this did lead up to the Belgium kind of uprising and really voicing their issues, and I think that did probably throw some bricks in the works of this whole whatever was going on here. But yeah, there was like 300 to 350,000 people that marched in protests of how this all went down, since it was a very obvious cover up. But yeah, I'll pass it off to you. I'm just rambling now.
Well, let's just talk about, for people who may not know why it got the name Dutroux Affair. It got the name because something happened in 1996 that opened up this whole thing in an investigation. People were freaked out. So maybe we can just talk about the basics and then expand from there. Like, what happened?
Yeah, I believe it was the Julie and Melissa kidnapping that really set it off. That's where the people got involved. Although this happened before, and there were other. It is kind of hard. This is a one of those cases I've had to look at from many different angles to really get a grip on it. It's a little bit confusing because jumping around in the chronology where things, because yes, where this does kind of kick off is a Julie Melissa kidnapping, but there are things before. For example, Dutroux at 1989 was he got busted for abducting and raping 5 girls. He only got 13 years in prison and ended up only doing 3 years in reality. So this happened before then, but this was I guess the parallel here would be like with Epstein with his sweetheart deal before. Most people weren't really aware of it. It didn't really register on the public consciousness, but it really was in 95 when Julie and Melissa are kidnapped, and that the kind of circus that follows that really started getting the public involved. They started realizing what is going on here. I mean, there were multiple other girls throughout this whole ordeal that got kidnapped too. A couple of them ended up surviving. I believe the rest of them, met untimely fates. And it seemed pretty obvious throughout this. For example, there was a surveillance investigation throughout this. They were watching Dutroux's house, where they literally were the children were being held, and they tried to escape multiple times. Like, it was able to be proven that they escaped. They were visible where the cameras and the people were supposedly conducting surveillance, but somehow they never saw them. It was ludicrous, the surveillance that they conducted on them. It was like something ridiculous, like maybe just a couple hours a day during the days he was the least active. It was completely a put on, and if anything, it actually filled the role of giving the appearance, this public show, as we just kind of got, this public show of look at what we're doing to address this problem. Meanwhile, what it really ended up doing was preventing other agencies from getting involved, because they thought, oh, look, this thing's unlocked. It also makes the public think, oh, it's being taken care of. Meanwhile, nothing's being done, and the children are literally starving to death. in the house as it's happening. Actually, I take that back a little bit. That there's a contention in whether they were starving to death. Later, we find out there were like 25 plus different hair samples found in the dungeon they were in, and so the story that well, because Dutroux was in prison during this time. The story that they just starved to death while he was in prison doesn't really seem to hold up, given the all the DNA that seemed to never actually get followed up on. So yeah, that seems to comport with the idea that there were other people looking after him. Also, the amount of time it took for them to die from starving to death and dehydration, it wouldn't make sense. They lived for months after Dutroux went to jail, so that story does not jive. Somehow they managed to live on a little bit longer before meeting their fate while he was in prison. I mean, and then top it all off, these kids in question we just mentioned, Julie and Melissa, they were literally, at one point, they actually entered the domicile of Dutroux, searching for these children, and they could hear their children's voices. Investigators said it, and the lead investigator went, "Silence," just said it loudly. And, the idea being like, you could interpret that as like he's telling everyone else in the house to be quiet so we can listen. But then the kids went silent and they go, "Oh, nothing," and they moved on. I mean, there's more to suggest too that it's like it was super ridiculous, the idea that they couldn't figure it out that they were still in the house. They didn't really seem to do a thorough investigation. It was almost as if they didn't want to see it and were just trying to check a box to say they did what needed to be done. This is something I'm sure all of us can really understand with with events as of late. So.
Right, like no investigation, shoddy investigation, weird police, all the way through this whole case. And you talk about the White March, which is like 350,000 people in Brussels, right? The head of the EU now. That's where, very strange. So there's weird connections between all these people. But it's the same overlap between Epstein and Dutroux, is that during this investigation, they're finding all these elites. So Dutroux is really just a gopher. He's like a kind of a low to mid-level criminal. Mm-hmm. Inexplicable amounts of money, 3 houses, cars. He's traveling around. Where's he getting his cash from? He was always a low kind of a lower level crook. But so these kids end up 2 survive. Like there's really incredible video of 2 surviving and 2 dying, and there's other mysterious disappearances of kids too, right? In this network, there's all kinds of weird things going on.
Yeah, that's when we get to the X dossier, when it comes to the other children that weren't like the initial one, which even then, it's hard to track the chronology because the whole X dossier shenanigans happened a decent amount after that too, because it wasn't until WikiLeaks released it later after the fact when it kind of was like, hey, it was all over, and everyone was kind of like, oh, the cover-up's done, we moved on. And then WikiLeaks dropped that information, and which that's where it gets really wild. I mean, before it seemed like it was more just there was the Pinon files that happened before that, which were also like a similar type thing, where it's implications of extremely high level individuals that were involved in the most ridiculous types of debauchery you could really imagine. And that was in the Pinon files, which was it Albert Pinon, I believe. It was supposedly his wife. He was able to she admitted to him about these pink ballets that were occurring, and that's where, and then I guess he managed to collect some information. So there's this is kind of becomes part of the story, the Pinon dossier that's supposedly floating out there. There's theories that different intelligence agencies got a hold of it. So there's kind of like blackmail versus blackmail, spy versus spy type stuff. So there's a lot of that going on. But the Pinon affair even preceded was before this. So I mean, it's kind of hard not to tie these things all in, especially when the characters seem to all be the same ones floating around. I mean, Belgium was like a huge hub for NATO as well, which for those of us, inundated in the parapolitical world are aware of Gladio and how that plays into NATO. Belgium played a big part in the in Gladio. I mean, the Brabant killings come into this, which is what were the gendarmes, which are the military police, were literally running cover for essentially what was an intelligence front that was a paramilitary organization that was carrying out hits on individuals. I mean, it was supposed to be private citizens. There are implications that these were actually targeted assassinations on individuals with blackmail on this operation. So that's kind of where this ties in. So we can just, I get carried away with this story because you can go so many different ways, and it's like, I mean, like the Westland New Post that literally was founded by an individual who supposedly had connections to Alexander Haig and was found it came out of the DIA, which is an American organization.
Makes
So it's
perfect
like,
sense. Al Haig, Knight of Malta, and
yeah,
these overlap. So some of these names that you mentioned in the Pinon affair, the Americans wouldn't know these names, but
yeah,
Paul Vanden Boy Nance is
mhm,
involved in the Pinon affair and kind of is friends with Nihul.
mhm,
So the original arrest in 96, there are like 6 people arrested. So it's not just Dutroux. It's Dutroux, his wife, Michelle Martin, Michel Lelevre, or however you say
mhm.
that in French, Nihul, and Bernard Weinstein. And then Dutroux goes on to kill Weinstein and bury
Yep.
him deep in his backyard.
Yeah,
And there's
the reasoning, his explanation for that was because he was upset that they let Julie and Melissa starve to death. I don't know if I buy that. Fun little note too. There's something in the realm of like 20 plus suspicious deaths in connection to the Dutroux
all
affair.
kinds, stabbing, suicides, just mass murders. It's
Yep.
just off the charts, and it's very skilled stuff. This
Mm.
is like pro level deaths. Like,
And a lot of it's while he's in jail too, so you can't
right.
just say it was Dutroux. He's clearly clicked into a network. Like these are people being killed, carrying out targeted assassinations. Gladio. So it makes you wonder. I mean, you brought up VDB, Vanden Boynance, a second ago. I mean, in the Pinon affair, well, actually, no, it wasn't. It was King Albert, I believe, implicated in the Pinon affair. VDB may as well. But there's like a character most people have known. Like, if you've ever watched the Gladio documentary, most people are probably that are kind of in the know of this have seen the video of Michel Lebert, who was an individual who was part of Westland New Post and also part of their navy. There's another story where how they got NATO documents through Michel Lebert. But anyways, beside the point, Michel Lebert also claims to have seen I don't know if it's photos or video of King Albert and Vanden Boynance, who was the former prime minister of Belgium. I believe around most of this stuff he was the prime minister when the stuff was kind of heated up. I forget the exact years he was, but he claimed to have seen them naked with women and children, naked with them as well, and have photos of that. As did Nihul. Nihul claimed that he had photos. He claimed to a journalist that he could sell him photos of King Albert of Belgium, for a certain price of him naked with children. And King Albert, apparently, a fun fact, he's not able to be prosecuted because he's the king. That's literally how that works. I guess there's a cutout for him. He basically can do whatever. And there's a lot of people who theorize that's what got it thrown out because it's just kind of a non-starter. How do you even begin to approach a case that is involved that implicates the king? It just kind of you can't. And so I think there's probably more to it than that. But I mean, you can sum it up as like, yeah, it went all the way to the royal individuals that were in Belgium, and which makes it looks like Gladio was essentially being carried out by the elites up into including the royals, which I feel like that kind of adds a weird little element to it, especially when you understand the generational aspect of these people, and these people were kind of tied into the old world networks that kind of preceded World War II to begin with anyway. So it was almost like a carrying on of whatever was going on before that, and that's them. So no, I find all this incredibly interesting, and I could just schizo out on this forever.
It's incredible because
Yeah.
that's why I'm saying this event, the Dutroux, is just a minimalization or a limited hangout or a narrowing of people's understanding because it goes, like you said, to the king, to all of these aristocrats. This is what they do. They orgy on the weekends. Like, this is how they blow off steam. They're not going over to the theater. And they need people for these orgies. So Nihul, there's stories of him like at constant orgying, but at clubs, sex parties, all this stuff. And Nihul flat out said, I can never be prosecuted because I have information on everybody. Like, so he was that kind of dark. And
Yeah.
their stories.
Oh, sorry. I just want to point out, I just remembered, I just didn't want to let it go. I find this particularly interesting, especially if you think about it. This happened kind of around like mid 90s, early 2000s. Some of the stuff happened around the 80s as well. I find it particularly interesting, especially for those familiar with like characters like Seville. The role that
Jimmy
Nihul
Savile,
played, yeah, he was a radio guy. Like he was essentially, I don't know exactly what particular role he filled in the radio, but he was throwing these parties at radio stations, which we think of that now. I feel like most people when they think radio, and you're like, well, it's almost so irrelevant. But you think about the time period when this was at. I mean, it was literally kind of, I guess, kind of at the end of the reign of radio during like the 80s and 90s, 2000s, but it was still significant. And you got to think radio used to be king, especially in like a decade or two and more prior to that. And so I think there's something to that. This is where intelligence agencies and the like had really seated themselves, and so I think it makes sense that you might see things blossom out.
I lost you. You just muted yourself. You muted yourself. Yeah. So
Yes,
it's just.
I'm back. Sorry, I accidentally
okay.
hit my little USB thing. So, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. I mean, there's just all kinds of. I mean, it's an enormous event. It's just like incredible, and just like the same thing in the U.S. where they don't get prosecuted, strange people die. I think Epstein was killed. I think he had to go.
Yeah.
But it's off the charts. The Pignon affair. This other guy that people don't know, Paul Van den Boynons, he's mentioned. We were talking in the pre-show about Annika Lucas. She was one of his victims, like very early, from around the time of the Pignon affair. So she's before Dutroux.
Okay.
And she's been on all these shows recently. We were talking Pet David. She's been on with the guy who did the Franklin cover-up. He interviewed her. I was trying to listen to that today, tried to get through that. But she mentioned when she first wrote that book, I think it was Memoirs of a Child Sex Slave.
Mm.
She didn't mention all the names. She used code words and stuff like that. So I think she had a code word for Boynons. But then she came out recently, and then on Patrick Bet to David, she mentioned some of these other nefarious characters that everybody's talking about. David Rockefeller, Trudeau's dad, Pierre Trudeau, was involved in this. And she said all this other weird stuff about mind control, that she was literally like being trained at a German facility that a lot of people wouldn't realize, that she dissociated, like classic stuff that happens to kids. And she was raped like as a 10 or 11-year-old. That's
Regina Louf described experiencing MK Ultra type things. She, to back up for the audience, I guess I'm kind of assuming you guys know Regina Louf is. Regina Louf is known as X1, which is, I referenced the X dossiers earlier. Essentially what happened during the course of this, at one point, Connerat and, Connerat, the presiding judge over this, who actually seemed like kind of a good guy, he took over and actually opened an investigation. Really seemed to, he looks like he was actually responsible for when he ended up getting arrested. Connerat seemed to have a lot to do with that. After that one, the follow-up, it seems to be where he got shit-canned, and then that's when the cover-up starts. He got trashed because he went to a benefit dinner for the victims, and they saw that as a conflict of interest. That's actually what kicked off, if I recall correctly, the White March. People were upset about Connerat getting kicked off the case, which I found out that's not the first time. There was one that I think was kind of tangentially connected before this to the Pignon affair. I wish I knew more specifics on this, but this isn't the first time Connerat got kicked off a case when the cover-up seemed to be coming in. Wow. So there was another one that somewhat was related. I want to say it was more in the realm of like the Augusta affair, which was like a bribery scandal in relation to like military-industrial complex type stuff, and a lot of people think that's what got Andre Coules. Anyways, I'm rambling now. I need to come back to the X1, the X dossier. The X dossier was when Connerat opened the investigation, he got the investigators to start looking into, all these people, also looking for other people that have similar claims, really digging into this stuff. And I believe we got into somewhere in the realm of like 10 or more. They were referenced as X1, X2, X3, X4. And X1's probably the most notable one, and that's the one that people refer to as X1 or Regina Louf. The X's were obviously intended for anonymity, but she actually essentially got doxxed by the media. So you can kind of see how this plays out, how the fix comes in. She got doxxed by the media, so that's how we know of her, Regina Louf. The key thing about her is she spoke on the Christina Van Hees death, and she gave so many corroborating details that if you look into it, I've covered on the show, and I recommend people go look into it just to be aware of the specifics.
Who's Christina Van Hees stuff? I don't know what that is.
Christine Van Hees was a death that Regina Louf claimed, and this is probably, I think it's the best example of kind of back up her credibility of Regina Louf, because there's odd little details that she remembers. Christina Van Hees died in a chapanière, is what they call it, or a mushroom farm, as I guess what that means. and it was like a disused, no longer in use mushroom farm that supposedly Regina Louf said that while she was in the midst of this, I want to say she said Dutroux and Nihul brought her. I might have that wrong, but brought them to the mushroom farm, and they essentially raped them and ended up killing her, killing Christine Van Hees, and kind of blaming it on Regina, which is kind of what the mind games they play. She corroborated, went through so many different details. The house actually got burned down. Like, they murdered Christine Van Hees, they burned the house down, and then there was an anonymous call reporting the fire. And then that's when they discover Christine Van Hees's body. I do find it interesting for those who watch True Detective. That kind of is basically almost the opening scene of True Detective. A fire gets an anonymous report. Now people are aware of the ritual. The ritual becomes a public thing. Almost the implication being maybe that was meant to be the case, because in this one, the anonymous call was bizarre. Anyways, that's the best thing to kind of back up her credibility, because she actually was known for having DID or MPD, depending on what you want to call it, dissociative identity or multiple personality disorder. And this was, likely from her time in a child trafficking network. And during this time, she claimed that her pimp, once he started noticing these alters or these different personalities, that she claims that he groomed them, that he intensified them. I want to say one of them was called like something like the Whore. And so the idea, and I think it kind of gives us a conceptual idea of how DID can present itself, or the multiple or alters or whatever, because it makes sense if you think of it from a child's perspective. We all need love in this world, especially children. They need it so much. So now it makes sense that you would create different alters, like, because in her case, she had like one was like the Whore, one that was more of like a daughterly type of alter to her pimp, and there was one. There were some other ones as well. But the idea was filling different roles, and so when she was the Whore, she was the Whore, like, so that was what she was about. But then she would flip a switch and just be like almost like a daughter to her pimp later, and he would almost be like a father. So I've never looked into it enough to know if this is the case, but it makes me think of the generational aspect of a lot of this stuff, and maybe he was the Whore at one point. I mean, that's incredible speculation, but I just think there's something to think about hurt people in here, and the idea that like how does these alters work? Like, if someone is the Whore at one point in their young life, what are they going to be when they're an adult? Likely probably plugged into this network and maybe filling some sort of role as the Whore. And then, maybe they need love too. And then they have this fatherly-daughter relationship. Supposedly there were claims that Dutroux was extremely upset about the deaths of Julie and Melissa, and supposedly was trying to protect them. I don't know what to degree I believe them, but I mean, if you do think about the possibility of alters being introduced in this, it's not that crazy. Because I mean, I do struggle to even wrap my head around the depravity of these acts. And it's almost like even to be someone to perpetrate it, it's almost like you need an alter. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, maybe not the first couple times, but after a while, I just feel like, you just got to dissociate. Like, how do you do that to someone while being present in the moment? I don't know. I mean, a little bit of a rambling, but I just thought that was an interesting side tangent in the aspect of that there clearly was, there seems to be, according to claims, some sort of element of, pushing alters on these people, trying to groom certain behaviors. So, and yeah,
it's real. It's real. That's what Annika Lucas said, or Ann Lucas, not a real name, but like, and the other real perverse thing is some of these kids get into it because of their parents. Yep. Her mother took her into the network. That is sick. Like, whoa, into this incredible abuse. And she corroborates all this stuff: violence, murder, torture.
Yeah. Her parents admitted that her pimp had access to her, and then people in the media played dumb that they didn't know that. The pimp admitted to it that he was. They believe that he molested her. So, but still, I just think it was just something that was never really picked up on, and she was looked at as a loon because she had all these, personality disorders and stuff, which was a common it's a common trope anytime we deal with these child trafficking networks. You see these damaged people that come forward with claims, and then people point out they're damaged, you shouldn't listen to them, and they go, yeah, you're right, they're damaged, we shouldn't listen to them, and they move on. It's like, well, I don't know, maybe that might damage people.
But it's the corroboration. I think Annika Lucas has corroborations for deaths and people's names and all these other characters. She was associated with a guy who was very well known in Belgian criminal but associated with those murders you were talking about.
The Brabant killings?
Yeah, the Brabant killings.
Is it
Just south.
Bahouche? Bahouche
No,
Bajir?
no, his name
No.
is Patrick Haynams. Like some of the names are hard for me to remember. It's in my notes. His name is it's not. See, here's a picture of Bandon Boynance. The Cirque, right? This guy's heavily involved in all kinds of secretive stuff, but he's a total perv, man. Total nut job.
Yep.
But this is in. But the guy's name is not Nehul. It's that's Annika Lucas, Quest for Love. But her Patrick. This is one of the people who died. Peter Bozeman's.
Patrick Debates or something?
I think I have a picture of him somewhere. Let me see if I can find it. Like you said, you can go down so many different paths on this thing. This guy right here.
While we're kind of on the this guy,
yeah, Patrick Heimers, Hamers.
I don't think
there was like a trial of the century that he and his crew abducted this guy, Paul Vanden Boynance.
That's
and then they went to trial. So this is like all connected to this crazy network. There's so many crimes and strange things going on.
That is weird.
Ex-Nazis and just off the charts.
Yeah, it's totally the Spider-Man meme there, pointing at each other. Because VDB, I mean, the interesting thing about him, he's a former prime minister. He is he's I think kind of basically the figurehead, or maybe the actual leader of the CEPIC, which was his political party, which was something like essentially like a socialist Christian or something party, I think is the gist of it. But that's what spurned off the Nouvelle de Jeunesse, which was like a publishing thing that they financed through there. And then off of that came the WNP that was born out of that. Cells started forming out of it. That was the Westland New Post. Those are the ones who carried out the Brabant killings. And that's so this seems to have this direct connection. I mean, I guess in a kind of a roundabout way, but not really, to VDP in the sense of CPIC, the political party, and how it ties in. I mean, the same thing. I believe Nehul had connections with CPIC as well. And then we didn't even. I don't think we talked about Von Voisin either. I mean, that will be a good one to look at a picture of too. If you have a picture of him, that guy is a complete ghoul.
Yeah.
I forget his role. I think he played more of like a finance. That's kind of the role that connects it to like Gladio and stuff. If you look at him. You see the circle there. I know Opus Dei plays a big part in this stuff too.
Opus Dei. Like they called them Opus Dei orgies too, which is really crazy because that's supposed to be like a Christian organization. Like we're having child sex orgies with Opus Dei members. How does this make sense?
Yes.
And you mentioned Al Haig too, because he's heavily involved in stuff. Let me see if I can find a picture of Boyson's.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the guy, Heimers. Annika Lucas had a real close relationship with this guy. And this guy's talking about murdering people. He never got busted for murder. So there's all kinds of stuff this guy did, according to Annika, that didn't say. And then he died, of course, suicide in prison. Who else died, supposed suicide in prison? But I mean, it is so crazy and chaotic, these guys' lives. You can't even believe that this kind of stuff happened.
Yeah, I think Nehul ended up only getting, I want to say it's like 5 years, I believe, if I recall correctly, and it was for drugs. And I believe that was the charge for actually supplying drugs to
300 pills of ecstasy, right?
Yeah, and it was either to Lalaive or it was to Dutroux himself. I forget which. But either way, I found that interesting too, because that does the idea of the drugs. It clearly looks like a form of payment, which that is kind of one thing we kick around when we talk about Gladio or these sort of networks. Is like, how are they financed? They're financed through drugs, or because you don't just give people cash, because it's like now you got to figure out how you launder it. Sometimes you just go drugs, and then that kind of cut that. I don't know, I just find that particularly interesting, also because the charge itself kind of establishes the connection to Dutroux. A lot of people try to say they weren't connected, although he was his handyman substantially before all of this. So I mean, it's well established he was connected with Nehul. If anything, the only real question is at what point did he really become connected with Nehul, because he's been carrying out for quite a long time these sorts of things. Even before his 89 arrest, there's implications that he had been carrying out similar such things for quite a while. There was, I believe, he did some stint in a Polish jail as well, and there were other claims of him, roving around different countries, and picking up girls and them magically disappearing type deal. So,
right, disappearing. Like he was busted for like 10 rapes, so he's probably had 10 more at least. This is just what he got connected to.
Yeah, and for those who say snuff isn't a thing. Well, I guess maybe this wouldn't be fair to say snuff. He did say, I guess that wouldn't be snuff because he's only saying he's raping them and videoing them. He was also, he initially, claimed he wasn't a pedophile. I think he might even have sort of stuck with that, but then it was kind of the idea that like, oh, then I realized I could make more money if I video them and rape them, as opposed to just waiting to procure them for whoever wants them. I can get additional money. So I just find it interesting that the video aspect of it, even at his low level, he was doing it. And then he was taking these girls and then slinging them to Nihul's network, obviously. So,
Yeah, see, she knew Nihul. Annika Lucas knows Nihul. And she literally said in this talk or one of these other talks, she thought she was being groomed for a sacrifice in 1972 at the Bilderberg group. So all this stuff overlaps. The Cirque, Bilderberg, Malta, Opus Dei, child trafficking. It's so dark. Like, it's just off the charts. But here this is a cover of her book, Annika Lucas, and this weird Rockefeller things. And this is a picture, supposedly, of the sex club they had in Brussels where a lot of
the
stuff
Dolo. Yeah, the Dolo.
Yeah, that's it, Dolo Cafe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So if you're in Brussels, you can go by and see the low lights of all this stuff. Yeah. But this also ties into this Abraxas. We were talking in the pre-show. The Abraxas call is real. Yep. It's actually real. Back when I was researching, like one of the first shows I ever did on my podcast, 2017, was about Dutroux, and I had a lady whose name I can't remember from Brussels talking about it. But I investigated kind of the Abraxas cult, and they do exist. Mm-hmm. Like, and they used to have their books. The person who was part of it used to have their book online. There were two people. They were investigated, and then once that investigation started, like, boom, the whole thing's gone. Conrad's gone. We have to come up with an excuse. There's Francis Desmet and Dominique Kindermans who had fake names. Grand Mitra Anubis, and then there was a tie because they found something at Dutroux's place to Anubis, right? So there was occult stuff, and some of these parties were satanic parties.
Nihul's wife was a member of the church. Yeah. It was, I guess allegedly. I mean, I believe she handled the finances. There are stories that went around that apparently she was saying to Nigerian immigrants that she would help stabilize their situation, which I believe means get them jobs or stuff, when they immigrate. Apparently, there were all sorts of, reports that they were, essentially just taking the money and not providing any sort of services for them whatsoever. I think it's also notable that in that area where this is occurring, it's a pretty notable spot for prostitution, and it was quite common for people to note that there was a lot of Nigerian women. And a lot of them looked very, very, very young, which I find it interesting that Annie Booty, the wife of Michelle Nihul, probably one of the country's most prolific sex traffickers, is soliciting Nigerian immigrants when they have a Nigerian child prostitution problem. So I just find that particularly interesting. That's a thing there. I mean, we were talking before, I guess that Brassix is also called the Celestial Church of Christ, which I found that interesting. Like, is that like, perhaps, I'd be interesting if if anyone out there, I mean, maybe you are aware of a copy of their philosophy or books or whatever, because I'd be curious what their belief system is, because it makes me think of some like process church type stuff, some like as above, so below, like, oh, we worship Satan and God type thing. Like that's kind of the impression that gave me. That, or it was either just a clever ruse to be able to get like things like Nigerian immigrants who might be familiar with things like the church in their country, to be like, oh, Christ, okay, that sounds familiar, and maybe be more receptive. I mean, I know. If anyone has a copy of their books out there, I'd be super interested, because what the hell are these people's their philosophy? What is this? Because for those who aren't aware, Abraxas is this is a brass tacks, but it's Abraxas is like a Gnostic god of some sort, I believe.
It's the he's also like a god of Abraxas.
Yeah, and he's supposed to be like a really high level one. I forget the specifics of him, but it's weird the occult elements here. Which, it heavily implies, I don't know particularly, I think there are claims of SRA type stuff, but I don't recall any offhand. This definitely is one of the ones that heavily implies that. I think, I want to say that Christine Van Hees makes me think of that type stuff too, but it's hard to be able to parse out when it's just sadism or if there's some sort of actual SRA, satanic ritual type stuff going on, because sadism went hand in hand from, the reports I've read. When it came to this trafficking ring, it was very much, they had like S&M rooms. When it came to children, it was just disgusting stuff. I mean, one of the key factors that I mean, what is it? I mean, I'm not trying to get you nuked or anything. I guess we're on YouTube, but
I'm
we
not on
get.
YouTube. No way.
Oh no.
I
Okay.
don't stream there
Okay.
anymore. It's a
Good.
joke.
But I mean, there was even I believe X1 herself claimed that when she was giving birth, they pulled her aside and raped her, like basically either mid or post birth, like basically right at the moment of birth. They essentially raped her during that period of time, and then took her baby something like a month later. Uh, yeah, I mean, they're also like just the degree of the. I mean, there were claims that they were to, I believe it was Booty would supposedly go around these sex parties and would use snakes to sodomize people, and supposedly they would put kids in cages and with dogs. There's also claims of put the hunts that we always hear about with things like North Fox Island and this like, where they would take children and put them on hunts and woods. That castle you showed before, I believe that might was one of the areas I think they were carrying those out because there's some sort of large woods near them, or I think there were multiple castles though, so it's kind of
Yeah, I think
I don't
what was the one castle they talk about, the Queen of
yeah.
something, one
I know what
that's
you're
in
talking about.
Belgium. Yeah,
Like, it's hard to remember all these
I
weird
think it ties
Belgium
into
names.
George Bush
Yeah.
Senior or something like that. 1,000 Points of Light,
Yeah.
all this crazy inside knowledge type stuff. But yeah, it gets
Yeah.
really crazy and sick. It does tie in, believe it or not, to Balenciaga. This whole
Oh
Balenciaga
shit.
scandal, right? So this when people discovered these little kids being pictured in Balenciaga's kind of stuff. There was a book on there of like Horsmans, who is a Belgian art quote artist, but his pictures are all this stuff: the hunts for the kids,
Mm-hmm.
satanic rituals, dismemberment. It's so grotesque, but it actually validates a lot of the stuff that's going on in Belgium and Brussels. Like the guy's a Belgian author with like some of the darkest stuff imaginable. People cannot believe this stuff really exists or happens, and that's really what keeps it kind of coming to light. But actually, the Conorots thing of the Dutroux, Conrad went to, it was on December, this was actually reported in the Irish Times. December 21st, 1996, same time Dutroux was arrested. 150 police, this is probably totally covered up. 150 police officers raided Abraxas's headquarters, seizing ritual items, human skulls, animal blood jars, and hundreds of videos and documents, all missing. The raid, ordered by Judge John Mark Conrad, who was taken off, we talked about that, in Neufchâteau, aimed to uncover evidence tying Abraxas to Dutroux's crimes, including rumors of child trafficking for satanic rituals. Media outlets such as RTBF and Irish Times reported vividly on the operation, amplifying public fears. Despite the dramatic raid, no concrete evidence emerged. The confiscated items were considered consistent with the occult practices. There was a letter, Anubis letter, to Weinstein, who got killed, and then Conrad was removed from the case.
Yeah.
Dutroux's defense lawyer, Javier Magne, later revived the satanic angle during the 2004 trial, alleging a broader pedophile network with ties to cults like Abraxas. Prosecutors dismissed these as baseless. X-File testimonies further muddied waters with claims of satanic rituals, but these two failed to tie Abraxas specifically to Dutroux's actions.
Weirdly reminds me of Epstein again. I mean, I know we don't have as strong connections to like Satanism or stuff, but I mean, if I don't know anyone with a cult-minded, inclination like we kind of do. You look at Epstein's Island, the little temple and stuff alike, and yeah, you can start to, and then you add
The
in some of the
idols,
weird things he was
statues,
doing, yeah, the breeding camps and such. You're like, what is going on here? I think there are elements we're missing, especially since even now this. I feel like typically in the mainstream, this is commonly colored as like, oh, like pederasty as opposed to or some of these girls being 18, 19, which that is a thing. There definitely were women in the young adult to teen range. Don't get me wrong, it's not okay to rape teens, but I'm saying it's obviously a different thing than like action than pedophilia, pederasty. They're both awful, but there are differences of degrees. This is typically colored, so a lot of people look at this like, oh, 17, 18, 19-year-olds and these rich, famous. Like, no, I mean, yeah, there definitely was some of that, but it. I think we're probably not, we're not privy to a lot of the details that come to younger. I mean, I know there are official details out there about younger ones, but I really feel like there's probably a lot of information out there that I mean, I was almost said that I don't think we'd get this sort of information, but now that I think about it, this would be the sort of stuff that would leak, like kind of on the sly, and then they try to color it as like satanic panic type stuff. So I could
exactly
totally see
what
them
some of
doing
these
that.
articles said. This whole investigation into Abraxas is part of the satanic panic
Yeah.
movement.
So I could totally see them dropping
Well, you might be
some.
trafficking and killing kids, so I panic too.
Yeah.
But like I told you in the pre-show, when I was researching this 5 years ago, I have it in my old files. This woman who was part of her practice, she published books on Amazon. I don't know if they're still out there, but I have that, and she's like a full-on witch. So you've got Weinstein. Oh, dude, you've got Nihul's wife is a witch, like into the occult, and then it's connected to these other purposes. I mean, you have to have this kind of evil mind to do this evil stuff. And Satanists is like the primary people who do this evil things, traffic kids, abuse kids. Sick. I mean,
And as I said before, I think there's something to the fact of there's so much of a royal contingent here, and I think there's like it, because as I've kind of pointed, you got to be messed up. You got to be messed up to do this sort of thing. You hurt people, and there's this generational thing. What is going on with these elites? What are they doing? Like, how are these people being raised? I mean, we see so commonly there is this generational aspect of intel or elites, and it's obviously when it comes to the royalty. But it's like, what's going on in these families? How are these people raised? Anyone who looked at the dynamics of like Rockefellers and how they're raised, and there's also lots of weird quotes about like incest and all sorts of weirdness, and how these interact with the public. You're like, these people don't even like the normal human experience is so bizarre to them they can't even wrap their head around it. And so, like, what are these people doing? And then on the other side, like, to just kind of be able to show a little bit of sympathy to them, how were they raised? What kind of awful trauma did they deal with? Did they see awful things happen, but then they were told they're the special ones because they get to survive? What is happening with these people? Those are the files I want.
Did you ever hear of the case of DuPont, one of the heirs of the DuPont family in Delaware, where Biden is the former governor or something like that?
I've heard little bits and pieces of that. Yeah, it was Hunter, or not Hunter, the other Biden brother, Bo, right?
No, but this DuPont heir, you can look this up. It should be online still. I think he was raping his infant daughter, and he got tried. He got convicted, but the judge said he just wouldn't handle jail very well, so we're going to put him on 5 years of probation. It is so sick. So this guy was definitely subjecting his kids to like the most dark crap. But it's real. Like I'll look it up right now. But this is from the X-Files. These are all the names of these people from the Mozart and Pignon Pink Ballet affairs. Doctors, landed estate, Baron, King Charles, Prince Charles, King Baudouin, King Albert II, Prince Leonard. It's the entire. I'm telling you, this is what I'm saying. Like Dutroux is just like a smaller view. The wide-angle lens is that this is a cultural thing that's happening in Belgium, much like Epstein. So you have to see all Count Lippens, Count Maurice, Count Leopold Lippens.
It's like a tale of two worlds. Like what these guys are in like a whole new other world. Like this is normal to them. Like this is just something they do amongst themselves. Like they see this as normal. I mean, there was something I was reading where kind of like the idea of this sort of blackmail is that just people get comforted into this is just normal. That this is just what we do, and the next thing you know, there's a picture, and you go, okay, I guess I got to deal with this. But this is normalcy for them. This is what they do. And as you see all these names, it is like, yeah, these people are of a certain pedigree. So it's
and above the law, right? So you said the king was above the law; he couldn't be tried. He is the heir of King Leopold II, the butcher of the Congo, who killed like millions and millions of people in the Congo. I don't know if you've ever heard that story, but like butchered millions of people for rubber and took all the money out of the Congo. But also related to Saxe-Coburg-Gotha, this famous kind of names. Princess Napoleon, Duke of Brabant. These are all these the royal family of the so-called Windsors were only recently called the Windsors after World War One. They are Saxe-Coburg-Gothas. So if you see all this crazy stuff going on with the Epstein and the royal family of England, it's the same kind of stuff. You can draw these analogs. You can draw these similarities. This is not a stretch.
I agree. Yeah, it is not a stretch at all. These are, it's bad. Yeah, there's something going on among the elite, and I find it concerning.
The landed aristocracy, and it kind of ties into Crowley's kind of outlook, the aristocratic outlook, which is the slave shall serve. These
And I find it
people are lesser than us, and we're going to prove it by treating
Yeah,
them like
and I find it particularly grosser that because this like I always like to focus on how this comes back to Gladio. It's like if you think about what this is like a worldwide network that this is like we're looking at somewhere near the top here, and this is these are people that are carrying out likely false flag attacks all over the world, and to uphold it, they are literally taking children from around the world, raping them, exploiting the photos from the photos and videos from it to get their way. And this is just how things are done, and this is done on our back. I think a lot of people hear about something like the Dutroux affair, and you're like, why should I care about this thing that happened in Belgium? You're like, because if you extrapolate from this and think about this is like the octopus of global control type shit right here. This is like these are those that rule above you, and this is what they're doing. This is what they think of you. You are disposable. You and your children are disposable. They will take your kids, they will rape them, and they will have a smile on their face while doing it, and they will take videos of it and use it to advance their agenda. Like this is just. And then they'll conduct false flag attacks and kill people in cold blood and blame it on whatever entity they need to blame on for whatever given political situation they're in at the time. And this is all off of our backs, stolen from you via taxes in order to fund it. Like all of this is off. You are fleeced for this. This is all off of your back, and it's the most disgusting thing you really could imagine.
It's incredible when you think about it. Like this whole USAID thing, like how much of that money went to terrorism? We know it's gone to terrorism worldwide, but how much goes, like we know it went to propaganda as well, right? Like it's just incredible. How much went to like murders,
raping kids,
raping kids? Like who knows? We don't know. They know they have names that go somewhere. They don't know where the money went. So all these guys had these slush funds. All these people you see on TV, and it's through their not all of them, but a lot of them, their relatives are getting NGO money from. I mean, they even proved that our vaunted president, the Saint Obama, decided he was going to get $2 million in just free money from one of these NGOs for doing Obamacare. Like,
wasn't Epstein getting some sort of like doing some sort of weird lottery scams to advance money or something? I vaguely recall something like that. I find it interesting. You kind of brought up like we mentioned earlier how Dutroux had all this money and stuff, but then you see other characters like there's an individual, kind of more in relation to the Brabant killings, but you can kind of loosely tie him into this Dutroux stuff as well. But he ended up in Thailand years later. He got fired from the gendarmerie, the military police. And he ended up, taking up a PI with another suspect in the Brabant killings, Bahouche, and he ended up actually getting busted for killing someone later. But anyways, he later, just recently, a couple of years ago, got arrested in Thailand, and he had something ridiculous like 6+ things. This is a guy who got fired as a cop a long time ago, was an unsuccessful PI that then went on to get arrested. So he's had a legal trouble. So he shouldn't have a ton of money, but yet he's seeming to live like a well-to-do individual in Thailand. He gets arrested because his visa is expired. It's just bizarre. This guy's hobnobbing over there. He's an ex-cop, like who got fired before he even got to a pension. So like I don't know how high he got. This guy's hobnobbing around with like royalty in Thailand. Like I don't know if it's a king or an emperor, like the sister of the emperor king or whatever the hell it is there. Like this is Bajir. I mean, it's nuts when you look into these people and you're like, so it is like, it makes you wonder, where is this money coming from? And I think it's likely that they probably find ways to slush money from government means of some sort, this scam or that scam, this NGO, that NGO. And so, this is where this money goes from. And they're all about, so these people they have to get rewarded or else the network will get exploited. So they take exorbitant amounts of your money in order to support these absolute monsters being able to, live an extremely comfortable life after the awful things they did.
It's incredible. They have created, this is truly the revelation of like the beast system. It's off the charts. And all these bums like Soros took $250 million from NGOs, then fixed all of the prosecutors in all the major cities in the US, and then they don't prosecute crimes in all the cities, just turn it, they're fourth world crap holes. They're not third world. They turn the first, like San Francisco is my hometown. They turn that place into a disaster. It looks like Mad Max. Probably better than Mad Max. There's like hits. People walk up on random people and blow their heads off. It never gets any press or anything. So this whole network it's the press and the prosecutors all get tied back to this dirty money, and guys are probably trafficking kids. They open the borders. Where are all those kids? I don't know. There's kids missing. There's so many arrests that have to happen. These people this is an exemplar today of this Epstein rollout. These guys are not ready and not capable for the immense criminality that's taking place. They're pikers. They should be hiring thousands and thousands of people because they have to arrest 50 or 100,000 if we're going to stay free. It's that simple because they have all this money they've stolen and taken from these NGOs and USAID. They're money rich. They're going to just keep perpetrating their own crimes. This is way too advanced for them.
Yeah, they'll just find something else to do. Like we were talking about, actually we weren't talking about, but recently there was the talks about the CIA firings. It's like, well, how's this going to work? I mean, likely those guys, they might get fired, but I have a feeling a lot of those will probably end up, well, oh wow, that's weird. I'm starting this private business now, aren't I?
They're already doing it. They're already reshaping themselves into NGOs or independent, socially beneficial type things or nonprofits or something. So it's already happening. It's still keeping up there. Like I bet there's nonprofits out there that are doing stuff like Dutroux that people would just be shocked to find. They're not ready for it. The government, Trump and these people aren't ready to handle the level of criminality. They've stole billions and hundreds of billions of dollars. So.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Yeah, there's
Who's this guy down there? That's Weinstein too, right? On the bottom, second from the right. That's Weinstein, the guy who got killed.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Who was the other guy you were trying to get me to find a picture of? I forgot.
It's the guy in the very left in the middle. That's actually a more dignified photo of him. The guy in the very, very middle, the little photo there, that's Bon Voisin. I think he's, if I recall correctly, he's more kind of like the money connection. But you look at him and he is a ghoul.
Wow, it's crazy. Oh yeah, this is that's the whole thing about this Dutroux affair. It's like a sociological study. It's not just one crime. It's like there are all these people involved. There's victims and perpetrators, and it's the whole society's corrupt, rotten to the very top.
Yeah,
it's really sick. So,
yeah,
I don't know. Where can people find your stuff? We're at the hour mark. Tell people a little bit about your show, what you've been up to, and where they can find you.
Yeah, I have the No Way Jose podcast. I'm on YouTube, Rumble, all the major odd podcatchers as well. I do like a few different shows on there. I mean, I do usually 1 to 2 a week. I'll kind of do a topic driven show. Those are the No Way Jose normal episodes. And I also do a daily live stream. This is all on No Way Jose. I do a daily live stream. Mostly it's daily. It's like most days. And if I'm not there, usually Austin is, because me and him, we host it on both of our channels. We do a morning show together. We also do Already Dead, which is on Tuesdays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. We do a live call-in show. So if you guys have any questions about any of the research that me and Austin do, that's hosted on both of our platforms as well. So everything me and Austin do is hosted on both our platforms. For all my stuff is it's No Way Jose. So my solo stuff and the stuff I do with Austin. So go check that out. I've got the stuff I'm probably most well known for. So if I could recommend, go check out my playlist on YouTube if you want to kind of find a spot to start. You can that's where everything's well organized. But probably the best thing is probably my OKC bombing coverage. That's what I'm best known for. I have somewhere in the realm of 20 plus hours on there in that playlist, 15 of which is completely just a series on it. Neatly kind of going into different topics throughout. I've went way down the wormhole. I'm still reading books on the Oklahoma City bombings. That's kind of where I focus on a lot. That's kind of what started me down the parapolitical wormhole. My show used to be a lot more about political theory and stuff. Now it's far more conspiracy. Every now and then I might do some political theory stuff, but I just kind of whatever I want to cover.
Conspiratorial society. This stuff's happening. Yep. Epstein. They're covering up Epstein. We're going to reveal it all, and all transparency is. I mean, from what they're showing now, that's a bunch of baloney. And the stuff about OKC is baloney too. And do you know that are aware of there's a new movie that came out called McVeigh?
Yeah, it's on Apple TV. I don't think it's released yet. I think it's gonna be released in a month or so.
Do you know what their take is?
It doesn't look right to me, but I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. It's really hard to tell for now. It looks like they're kind of trying to cover the period leading up to the bombing. It's an area that Wendy Painting covered a lot in her book Aberration in the Heartland of the Real. That's kind of a weird portion of the period after he got out of the military and before the bombing. There's a good, probably 5+ years stretch there, which a lot of weirdness. He was working for Caltech at one point. He was He was weirdly
He went and
seeming
visited
to.
with Bill Cooper and all these other
Yes, yeah,
characters.
supposedly, allegedly by
Yeah.
Bill. I mean, he's supposedly then he's like he's hobnobbing with all the major, right wing, racist, radical, whatever entities during that time, and almost in like a making a legend for oneself type of way. So
Yeah,
yeah,
nobody ever does that. Oswald wasn't doing that. I
yeah,
mean, come on,
exactly.
man.
Yeah,
You're talking. This is conspiracy theory. How
yep,
dare you?
yeah,
I mean, he was telling his sister like, "I'm a
yep.
deep agent."
Yep,
I'm a
there's a
deep.
letter that proves it was years
Yeah,
before it. So it's like
yeah.
it's kind of hard to I mean, you just have to say he lied. That's the only way you really can explain. He's just a liar.
He's not
He
always
would,
bragging to his sister. I'm a deep
yeah, he's a
agent.
compulsive liar. That's the only way to explain that because it's like I mean, bizarre thing to say. Yeah. So
He's
I
the
mean,
worst criminal out there
yep,
too. Like he left the scene of the crime in his car with license
yep,
plates and got pulled over right away. Like,
yep. Which
oh,
that
that's
by the way, that arrest video
oh,
was not complete. It's been cut, and there's also
wow.
multiple eyewitnesses who claim that they saw another truck pull up after he got pulled over,
There's a
and that
third guy missing that people have seen. There's all
yep,
kinds of sketchy stuff. Like,
yep.
whoa.
There's a lot to it, and I
How
mean
does
this
this
is
bomb like? He must have been super intelligent because he made a
yeah.
truck bomb that's directional and it's super powerful
Yep.
that could actually blow up half of a federal building.
Yep. Official narrative was he did it in one day. Got it
Incredible.
perfect. Yep.
He was a
Yeah.
genius. Like he's so
Yep.
smart. He can build this great bomb, but then like can't get away from the crime scene or figure it out. He can set the timer, but he wasn't smart enough to like. This is probably before like the advent of so many like video cameras everywhere, CCTV everywhere. Like he couldn't figure out like, how do I suspect get away? Like maybe I should go to the bus station and just take a bus out or
Well, I mean, on the
nothing like this.
surveillance tape side of things, there's literally been proven in court that there were surveillance tapes of the actual bombing. There even was Secret Service documents that say that they saw another person stepping out of the things. It was a second person stepping out of the Ryder truck. So yeah, but we've never seen it. Well, that's a little bit untrue. Jesse Trentadue in court received copies of it, but it weirdly seemed to it cut out at 9:02 right before the bombing. Every single one of them. That's weird, right?
Yeah, weird. And then Jesse Trentadue gets beat up in. Wasn't that one of the Trentadues?
It was Kenneth, his brother.
Kenneth, his
Yeah,
brother.
yeah. Yep, yep. He was one of the suicided individuals, along with Terrence Yeeki. Who
Yeah,
I've
he
had,
just beat himself in the head, right? Didn't he just
Yep.
punch himself over and over and bloody to a pulp?
Yeah, he
Commit
beat the shit out
suicide?
of himself and then hung himself. Apparently, I
That's what
guess.
it
Yeah.
was. Yeah. Same with like Yeeki went out into a field. Like people are following me. I
Yeah.
think I'm in trouble. I guess
dude
I'm gonna
had
go out and
anemia.
commit suicide.
The dude had anemia, and supposedly somehow we're to believe that he got from his car that was covered in like 2 liters of blood, which that's enough to get you to pass out, basically, start losing consciousness, and almost to the verge of dying. And somehow he ended up a half a mile to a mile and a half away in a field from his car and covered in blood. So obviously he sustained some damage there. This theory being he cut himself up, then for some reason went in the field and blew his brains out. But yeah, somehow a guy with sickle cell anemia lost 2 liters of blood and managed to walk through a half a mile or a mile and a half of rough terrain, over fences, through streams and the like, and blow his brains out at a downward angle. And this guy was built like a corn-fed big dude, and we're to believe he shot himself like this. So
It's just, I mean, it's
yeah.
preposterous. So many of the stories we've read and heard are just,
Yep.
they're just not believable. And same with Epstein. And this whole, I mean, this is like if this is a sign of things to come for the Trump administration. This Epstein rollout,
Yep.
we're in deep trouble because this.
Yep.
This is
The
baloney.
pivot is in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing is like this. Like I'm starting to. This just happened today. This kind of rollout with the Epstein file, but I'm starting to see them influencing these other influencers. So like, it's not just the agents of influence, but we've got these great guys, and they're going to help us
Yep.
tell this part of the story for us, and they're going to look like the alt media. So we're not going to have the TV.
Do you remember the Twitter files? This feels like they're following the template of like the Twitter file rolls out for this thing. I have a feeling that's going to be kind of how this presents itself. They're going to find people, these influencers, to roll it out. At least with the Twitter files, we got like what was it, Matt Taibbi? At least that was kind of legit. Now we're getting like lives a TikTok, like DC Drano, like what the fuck?
Cernovich, come on, guys! Like,
yeah,
this lives of Tik. There, I mean, there's questions about her. Like, she's just. It gets people should be afraid of the alternate media because there's like really scary things going on in the alternate media and there's all kinds of very nefarious, very sinister influence agents out there. So be careful. It didn't used to be that way. It's getting real dark. They want full control. The Satanists, like these people who are like, Dutroux, they get off on total control and they don't like anybody independent. They hate independence and they want to blackmail everybody. Like they tried to put their finger on me. Like it's incredible. Like, whoa. Like they couldn't do it. But I mean, like the stuff is, you wouldn't believe it. I can't even tell the real stories.
They sick a cutie on you? We don't answer. It's being silly.
They've done a full past life regression to like I'm 56. Like, whoa, you went back to my high school? Like, this is really weird. Somebody went through every one of my episodes to see if they did it to Rogan too, because they had him saying N-words and stuff in his earlier shows. But they went through all his to try to put a finger on him too. And I think
I'm gonna go ahead and say it. Anyone out there, if you want to do that to me, please do. I will retweet it and I will laugh. I don't care. That's the way you stay uncancelable. Oh, you have this reel of me saying offensive stuff? Cool.
They can never put anything in writing about me because it's fake. Because I'll sue them. I mean, it's easy. Like I'm an attorney. I know what defamation per se means, but it's bad. They don't want. It's a power thing, and they don't like independence. It's also competitive. So a lot of these guys are making money, and they don't want to have. I mean, it's just like any business situation.
Yep.
You're just a competitor for information. We don't want you to be critical of me or anybody else. We want to own the narrative.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of writing on these narratives. You have to kind of like there's a narrative that Israelis are at war with Gazans and it's a genocide. Like it's not a war. Like a war is like two equal parties kind of fighting each other. Like the Gazans are like fighting with like Toyota hatchbacks and sniper rifles or something. Come on, man. This is like nonsense. So there's a lot of. It's really getting real dangerous.
Yeah, it's getting weird.
Start dropping dead. I will tell you right now. Mark my words. But February 27th, 2025, next couple of years, there'll be people die mysteriously in the alternate media. I promise you. As a chilling factor, they will do it just to make sure everybody gets scared and people go off and drive for Uber or do something else.
Yeah, you're probably right. I do think that it does seem to be. There are a lot of odd characters that are coming in place. A lot of ones that like. I mean, on my morning show, I've done quite a bit of coverage of like, is so and so a Fed? Is so and so a Fed? And like, I'm usually pretty fair about it. And it's like there are a lot of people with I'm noticing a lot of patterns. I mean, a lot of them. There's not many of them I would really be like he's totally a Fed because I don't like the whole Fed jacking thing. But I'll evaluate the information and I'll give you an honest appraisal. There's a lot of individuals there that are glowing quite bright, and it's a little bit concerning. And it is kind of like, it's almost like to edge out people like me or you. So with that, I think people out there just need to support, people like me or you, because really we just need to be able to, try to get some quality up there in the other upper levels. That way we can be in positions where we can interact with these individuals. And I mean, not necessarily be, hostile, but, if you have someone like me or you in these high levels, and if you have someone that's like sort of on our page, but yet twisting the narrative to go one way, and you have somebody like us to rebuff it, it kind of puts them in a weird light where it kind of makes it more obvious what they're doing. But if they can inculcate themselves to be separate from us, to where they don't have to interact with any organically, impressive people of any sort, then it's like they're able to get away with, I'm going to find a way to cope this for whatever, political entity I'm probably assigned to advocating for or whatever,
There's so much secret NGO money out there from the Biden administration. These guys will be out there forever. Yeah, and the secret money you never see. But some of those guys, like even these influence operators who are at the White House today, I know for a fact some of those are getting big dollars from like wealthy resources and things like that. Like they're not independent. They don't even say they're independent because I don't think they could get away with it. Jose, great to talk with you. People check out your stuff. I'll put links to your YouTube channel with the playlist and your podcast. And this goes out today, February 27th, 2025.
And follow me on Twitter at TowerGangJose if you want to do that. And if you want to support me monetarily, patreon.com/NoWayJose2020.
I'll put
I appreciate you having me on, William. I love coming on. It's fun. It's always good to have you on, too.
Yeah, super knowledgeable about this stuff. But, guys, the Dutroux affair is very similar to Epstein, guys. Same kind of stuff. Control, elites, it's weird things happening with the legal system. Like, even now, weird things are happening. So, stay frosty, as they say. Stay cold, stay safe, and God bless. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
All right, stay there.